Hello everyone, it's me, Clayton. I just finished watching The Mandalorian Season 3 finale. Now, while the third season of The Mandalorian has been pretty up and down in terms of overall quality and in terms of how much the story makes sense, I do think the finale is generally well handled, tidying up the season in a pretty cool way while giving us great action scenes throughout, a final battle with Moff Gideon, and honestly a conclusion that feels less like a season finale and more like a series finale. As in, they could end the entire series right here and I'd be satisfied. But let's get to the story, shall we? After Mando is captured by these Beskar troopers, he manages to save himself with a little help from Grogu, as he decides to hunt down Moff Gideon while Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandalorians take out the remaining soldiers in the base. All before they can destroy the base and retake the planet as the true home of the Mandalorians. But that's all I'll say about it. The story's pretty straightforward here, but after how the last episode ended, I figured that it was going to be pretty much a straight shot from here. We get to see a cool hallway fight with Mando fighting troopers two at a time through a bunch of blast shields in classic Star Wars fashion. We get to see Moff Gideon's fight Mando and Bo-Katan, and then both of them with his Beskar armor. We even get to see what he's been planning on doing with the clone technology. He was planning on creating clones of himself that had capabilities of the Force. It might have been a little cooler if we got to see him use the Force with one of his clones in the actual final battle, but at the same time, Mando made the right decision by taking out those clones before they could even take their first breath, because if Gideon had more versions of himself with the Force, I'd imagine that he'd be nearly unstoppable. Speaking of which, the fight with him was actually pretty decent, though I'm pretty sure they had a lot of stunt people, considering that Giancarlo Esposito isn't exactly known for physical contact with a lot of his actors. I mean, when it comes to physical fight scenes. When it comes to a lot of his roles, both Stan Edgar in The Boys and Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, he's more of a charismatic talker more so than a fighter. But that's all he really needed to do for this episode, and he still does a great job doing what he does. And on top of that, we get to see some really cool fights in the air with Bo-Katan leading a bunch of Mandalorians with the Darksaber, meaning we get to see Beskar troopers in jetpacks and Mandalorians in jetpacks flying all around each other trying to take each other out. It's pretty dang cool, and while it does mean that the scale of this finale is a lot bigger than the other finales that we've gotten, that also means that it feels like this has all led to something. Even more so when Mando officially adopts Grogu, though he's kind of been his dad this entire time, let's just be honest. And the people of Navarro thank our heroes by giving them a cabin and letting them live in relative peace. So if they end the whole series there, I'd be happy. So speaking as a whole, this season was kind of a mixed bag. There were certainly some baffling cameos, and some stories that felt like they were either underexplored or overexplored. And heck, there were even some stories felt like they were just there to set up other events that would happen in other shows, as all the Star Wars shows have to be part of this extended universe. But when it does actually focus on Mando and everyone else that's important, I do think it does shine at several moments. It's not a perfect season. In fact, I think out of all three seasons, it's probably the least of the three. But I think it still has its moments, and it's generally still well made enough to the point where I do think it's still worth watching for people who have seen The Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2. So on the whole, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. See you next time.